Hi guys, Ali Taylor down here at Heron's Reach, and today I'm going to be testing the brand new TaylorMade P770 irons. So TaylorMade have launched 3 new sets of irons. We've got the P7MB, the P7MC and the P770. So I've very fortunately managed to get my hands on all 3 sets in 5-iron, 7-iron and 9-iron. I'm going to hit some shots on the driving range with each. I'm going to then go out onto the golf course and hit maybe a couple of full shots, but some shots around the green, because all 3 of these new models in the P range are forged heads. And when we say forged, we think feel. So we're going to see, do they perform on the range? And then we're going to look on the golf course and see, do we also get that extra bit of feel that you might be looking for from a forged club. But in this first video, I'm going to look at the model that I think is going to be the most popular, the P770. So we're going to have a close-up look at the head, look at the tech, because there's a fair bit of tech in this one, very much based around the P790, which is still in the range, which has been hugely popular, but TaylorMade saying kind of just in a smaller, maybe more attractive looking package. For the guy who P790 didn't quite fit the looks, but they like the forgiveness and the performance, is P770 going to be that perfect iron? So when we look at the back of the club, you know, it looks like a real blade from the back. A really clean, good looking head. When you go into the kind of mid to longer irons, we've got that speed slot in the bottom. Again, TaylorMade saying that slightly lower strike, we should still get performance. With the P770 being hollow, we can see the screw in the end, which is where they inject the speed foam into the head. So that even though it's a hollow head, the speed foam is going to help just absorb a little bit of shock, give you a better feel off the club head. And certainly down behind the golf ball, it's a kind of mid-top line for me, still maybe a little bit chunky, but certainly looking much more like a player's iron. Right then, so one of the nice things with P770 as well is the lofts aren't quite as powerful as we've seen in P790 and some of the other TaylorMade irons. So I've got the 5-iron, 7-iron and 9-iron, and the 5-iron is 25.5 degrees, the 7-iron is 33 degrees, and the 9-iron is 41.5. So certainly what I'm hoping to see is maybe those distances not being quite as powerful, because that is probably what I would say the negative with the P790 was, that maybe the ball goes a little bit too far. Maybe you guys won't be quite as concerned about that. And the one little sticking point I always had when I tested P790s is just occasionally I got that one that was really low spin that would go an extra 10 to 15 yards. So it'll be interesting as we hit P770, do we see more control? Right then guys, so as ever, we're going to use TrackMan for feedback. I'm using my normal golf ball Titleist Pro V1X. It's very sunny today out there, so I might struggle to see the ball, but we can see on TrackMan. I'm going to hit a few shots with 7-iron, 5-iron, 9-iron, give you just some feedback as kind of, do these clubs do what we'd expect? Not necessarily how good are the very best ones, but might try, particularly when we get onto 5-iron, maybe just getting a couple of little mishits in there and just seeing what the drop-off is, because nothing's perfectly forgiving. But definitely with 7-iron, when you put it down behind the ball, it's a good looking golf club, and I could instantly, I think from a looks perspective, put those in my bag. Really good looking golf club. So let's go 7-iron. And that's very much kind of how I expected that to feel, nice and soft. So 162 carry. Okay, so 33 degrees, so not, like I said, as powerfully lofted. So that definitely performing more like I would want a player's 7-iron to perform. I don't want to bomb 7-iron as far as I can. I want to make sure that it's good height, decent spin, which straight away there, some very good numbers. And again, you know, feels really good off the face. Speed foam clearly doing what it should in there. Couple of yards further. Just a little bit pushy with that one. Just not drawing back. That's me, not the club though. So yeah, spun a little bit more. Right, so that one, I'll show you some strike on that, because that was a little bit out the toe. So we can see there, definitely that contact's a little bit out the toe. And when we look at some carries there, kind of average around that 160, even with that miss hit in there, some really, really good numbers. But certainly when we got that little toe strike there, we did see kind of around about 8 to 10 yard drop off, but still kept the spin rate up, so there's still lots and lots of control there. Right, so moving from 7-iron into 9-iron. For me, 7-iron did exactly what I'd expect. It looked good, it felt good. Some good, not necessarily performance numbers based on yardage, but certainly some good control numbers with backspin. So 9-iron, still for me, maybe a little bit thicker top line than I would ideally like to see, but definitely a more compact looking head compared to P790. And I think, again, you know, this is really, really going to tick a lot of boxes for guys. And just feels exactly like 7-iron as you'd expect. So, and at 41.5 degrees, this is where I always think maybe some of the modern clubs, traditionally, and I don't know why I always say traditionally, because it's been a long time since that's happened, you look at 4 degrees difference per club. But definitely when you're getting into some of a lot of the modern sets nowadays, you only see 3 degrees in between, even 2.5 for some of the long irons, and getting out 4.5, 5 degrees. So kind of 160 was the average with 7-iron. So I'd be looking for round about 137 to 140. Again, love how it feels. It's a couple of yards back of where I would like. But I definitely think this is a set that's really going to tick boxes for the guy who, again, better players an odd comment. I think the guy who likes a good, really good looking iron, who wants that little bit of forgiveness, I think this is really going to tick those boxes. And again, for me, you know, 9-iron's kind of doing what I'd expect. Maybe a couple of yards back. And when we look at the average, at just under 134 carry, not really too bad. And again, I think a real possibility with this set is you're going to get guys splitting between P790 and 770. So for a lot of golfers out there, this is where you get that little bit more testing. They're probably quite decent 7-iron down. So a lot of golfers, maybe even mid to high handicappers, might go 770s in the shorter stuff. It's when you get into those longer irons. Now certainly for me, I think the 5-iron looks less chunky than the 7 and the 9. So I think the 5-iron I really, really like the look of. So again, let's hit a few shots, see if it performs how we would want. Again, feels lovely, feels soft. Now 191, so that is long. So if I was maybe, I mean my average with the 7-iron was 160, but there was a little bit of a miss hit in there. But even if we get out to 165 at a push, 192 is a long way for a 5-iron for this set. Let's go again. Do like the feel though. Very, very solid. I'm just not quite shaping back for me. Again, 192, very, very powerful. And out of the 3 irons that I've tested there with the 5, 7 and 9, I would say visually I like the 5 iron the most. Still looks very, very similar to a blade to look down on. And I think what we need to remember with P770 is even though TaylorMade is saying forged, it's the face that's forged. Okay, so it's not the entire head that's forged. So I would expect these to maybe feel a little different from the MB and the MC because they are completely forged heads. So let's go one more 5 iron. Love that. Really, really like that. Good looking shots. And again, some real consistency there in carry distance and spin rates. And again, if we look at the average there, kind of 194 carry, nearly 4,000 spin, which is good. And just, you know, very, very good looking and good feeling irons. Right, so when we looked at the averages there, pretty good and kind of what I would expect. My only little concern is maybe with these, we're not seeing exactly 10 yards difference per club. Maybe seeing more like 12 to 14. I mean, that's not much of a negative. But let's go out to the golf course. Let's hit a few shots, particularly around the greens, because I'm really interested to see how 770 feels on those little short, delicate shots. Right, so P770 9 iron. I'm just off the green. I've only got to carry the ball maybe 6 feet. Greens are a little bit wet, so the ball might skid a little bit more. But a really good performing iron when I'm on the range or hitting full shots, you know, but what I'm interested in when I get round the green is kind of what that feel is like, and does it still enable me to kind of scramble and give me the kind of scoring ability that I'm looking for. So again, I really like 9 iron round the green. Be interesting to see what the feel is like around the greens. So not bad, good result. Maybe just a tiny bit clicky on that shot, but certainly not hard. Again, just that first bounce, a bit of a skid, but that's kind of the ground conditions, not the club. But yeah, I mean, I think the P770, TaylorMade have done a really, really good job. And like I said, when I was hitting the full shots, I can see a lot of guys really splitting the sets because I wouldn't fancy the 790s around the green personally from a looks perspective, whereas 770, I think looks much, much nicer. And I think the feel is, I'm going to say soft, not super soft, and maybe not quite as soft as I would like. Now I am saying that, you know, based on the fact that I'm using a club, or have been using a club up until the last couple of months that's quite firm around the greens, and I haven't really loved that part of it. So certainly for me, looking forward to trying the MBs and the MCs around the greens. Come on, let's chip one in. Let's chip one in. That might change my mind. But again, you know, I'd kind of take any of those. Those are decent. And certainly feel-wise, yeah, it's soft, if not as soft as I would ideally love them to be. So played some shots with the 9 iron, that was good. Just come a little bit further away from the flag. Gone to 7 iron, again looking to get it on the green and kind of rolling out. Again, you know, I think 7 iron and 9 iron are very similar looking with the thickness of the top line. I made the comment on the full shots though, I really, really loved the way the 5 iron particularly looked behind the golf ball. Go. But yeah, I mean, it's hard because I don't want to stand here and kind of just say positives about the clubs all the time. So I think comments I'll get is that I'm not giving a fair review. And I'm trying to find something as a negative, and the only negative I can find is that they're just maybe not quite as soft as I would like, but I could definitely get used to how they feel. And yeah, you know, I do like the forged face. I think it just that little bit of softness around the green gives you that little bit more feel. That one needs to get a wriggle on to get down that slope. But I don't mind those when those are all down, almost tap-ins. And I know this isn't a difficult shot, but this is just a case of, if that breaks, has got a chance. That one's hung out there a little bit. But yeah, no, I really like these. I think P770 is going to be a huge iron for TaylorMade. And it'll be interesting to see once I start fitting how many guys go 770 rather than 790. Right, so what are my impressions of P770? I mean, they are a great looking golf club. Really good looking golf club. And any of you golfers out there who have tested P790 will admit that the hollow-headed designs are great for forgiveness. I love the fact that these aren't quite as strong lofted. So I think a big selling point for P790 was the fact of how far it hit the ball. I think that was a turn-off for some golfers and maybe a bit of a turn-off for me, and particularly that odd one that went too far. I just haven't seen that at all with P770. Now, I think it looks good, I think it feels good, if not amazing around the greens. But like I said, I've said it a few times during this video, I think P770 could well be, when we look back in a couple of years' time, TaylorMade's biggest selling ever iron. So if you are in the market for a new set of irons and you want something that looks good, feels good, performs well, the TaylorMade P770 is definitely something you should be considering trying. You might not go for a full set, you might go long irons in these, maybe shorter irons in the MC and the MB, or maybe short irons in these and longer irons in the P790s. But a good looking club and definitely worth trying if you're after a new set of irons. Right then guys, so I hope you've enjoyed today's content. If you have, like and share it, comment below and I'll get back to as many people as I can. Let me know if you've already tried the 770s. If you have, did they go in the bag? And if they didn't, why not? But if you have enjoyed today's content and you don't currently subscribe, please click the subscribe button below, ring that notification bell, and then you'll find out whenever I drop a new video. Follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Ali Taylor Golf. Hopefully catch up with some of you guys down here soon. Stay in contact.